Welcome to the ATMIA webinar. We are glad you could join us today. I will be going over a few housekeeping items before we get started. Your dashboard is on the right. You can open and close it throughout this webinar by clicking on the orange box with the arrow in it. On the dashboard, you will find all the features I'm going to take you through next. You join this webinar using your computer and speakers or by dialing in via telephone landline. If you get cut off or cannot hear well using your computer speakers, then select the audio option for dial-in, and you will be given the dial-in line numbers with the webinar access code and the audio pin. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so you are not able to ask questions verbally. Please submit your questions in writing to the questions area on your dashboard. Feel free to send them to us during the presentations. We will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. We are recording this webinar, so if you get called away during the course of the next hour, we will send you a link to this recording yet today or tomorrow. I will now turn it over to Mike Lee, CEO of ATMIA.
Thank you very much, Dana, and a very warm welcome to each one of you for joining us for a guided tour of ATMIA's new Certified Online ATM Operators Training. I do feel a mixture of pride and excitement when I think back on the long and challenging 2 years it took to research, develop, and produce the e-training for ATM operators at a global level, taking job descriptions, operations manuals, policies and procedures, and survey results from around the world to forge into a job-specific international training program for ATM deployers. I'd just like to explain the structure of the webinar for you so you know what lies ahead. First up will be Susan Matt, President and Founder of ThoughtKey, who will give you an overview of the content which is covered in the curriculum. And then she will pass on to Amber Howell, who is our training manager, and she will run you through the mechanics of actually doing the training. And then finally, we hand over to Amy Coulson, Operations Manager for Pueblo Bank and Trust, who will give a personal testimonial of how she experienced the training in being the first person to complete it in our industry. Finally, we do have a Q&A session, and you are welcome to submit your questions to us via the questions section of your dashboard on the right. I'd just like to introduce each of the speakers. I'll do them all now so that we just pass straight on from one presentation to another. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of automation before Susan gives her presentation. Well, as I mentioned, Susan Matt is the president and founder of ThoughtKey Incorporated, which is a consulting firm focused on data security and corporate risk management in the payments industry. She has over 24 years experience in international audits, litigation review, regulatory risk management, operational compliance, as well as extensive experience working with a variety of clients on payment data security. She's recently assisted clients with writing operational risk policy and procedures and has performed over 300 independent reviews of bank and agent compliance structures. Susan is certified as a public accountant, as a payment industry security manager, as a PCI knowledge base expert, and also as a business process re-engineer, to name a few of her certifications. And Susan, as I say, will be talking primarily about the content covered in the curriculum. It's also my pleasure to introduce Amber Howell to you. Amber joined ATMIA in 2004 and is our training, web content, and social media manager. She is focusing this year on the ATM operators training, as well as on marketing and content for our website, as well as our links with social media. Prior to joining ATMIA, Amber worked within the banking industry for 5 years. Our third speaker is Amy Coulson, and as I said, she is the operations manager for Pueblo Bank and Trust, and her career has focused largely on auditing and compliance, along with her CTGA certificate. She's also a certified payments professional and now an internationally certified ATM operator, which of course is knowledge which will help her in her role as a sponsoring financial institution. Amy has kindly agreed to talk about her experience of being the first in the world to complete the new online ATM operators training. Before we get started with those presentations, I'd like to talk with you about the future of automation. So if you could give us the next slide, please, Amber. When we think about automation, we, of course, in the ATM industry are very familiar with automation, but it is going to be even bigger than we ever imagined. A recent Oxford University study concluded that 45% of all jobs currently are vulnerable to eventually being automated. If you can put something on software, you can automate it. Amazon's Kiva robots have already replaced tens of thousands of warehouse workers. And we know that software and mechanical devices are automating social processes on an ever-increasing scale. Assembly lines, the new 3D printers, and of course our own self-service devices, vending machines, robots, computerized flight programs, etc. Move the slides, please, Amber. Thanks. If you look at this slide, you'll see that governments around the world are investing heavily in automation. In the US, we've got, in 2011, the Advanced Manufacturing Partnership Plan with a $2.2 billion investment in developing industrial robots. For the European Union, they've got a 2020 Horizon program to spend $1 billion to develop life companion robots to assist with the ever-growing aging population in Europe. South Korea has just unveiled a new plan to develop robotics in order to ramp up its economy. And look what they're going to spend on advanced robots. That's also a huge sum of money. And we all know that Japan's economy has been in a zombie state for a couple of decades now. And they're hoping that a robot revolution will help the manufacturing market to grow by 300%. Japan is holding the Tokyo Olympics in 2020 and will also host a robot Olympics at the same time. Next slide, please. I've mentioned that Amazon.com bought or is using robots in its warehouses. They bought Kiva Systems in 2012 for $775 million. And it's reported that these robots have increased efficiency by as much as 400%. That's incredible improvement. And the CEO of Amazon recently announced that they plan to have 10,000 robots by the end of the year. Next slide, please. We know that Amazon is a retail giant globally, and the fact that they're investing so heavily in automation should tell us a lot about the future. And we now see the skies opening up to commercial drones. And this quote to me is quite futuristic. You see the drone there, commercial drone, delivering an Amazon package to a house or a home. And one day it looks like our skies will be filled with these commercial drones, much as we see trucks delivering stuff on the roads today. Next slide, please. In the ATM industry, we've been at the forefront of automation for 4 decades now. And we see the ATM is evolving into a 21st century automated payments hub and a critical customer touch point. We even have Bitcoin operators wanting to link into ATMs so that virtual currencies can be converted into hard cash. Now, our point here is that we know automation. We know that the future of society is going to be even more heavily automated than it is now. And so why not automate training in your organization in order to save man hours and increase efficiency? And next slide, please. And so it's my pleasure to introduce in this webinar the new ATM, our automated training manager.
Good morning, everyone. Go ahead, Mike.
Is Susan. Susan, hand over to you now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wow, Mike, that was a great backdrop, and I'm going to give away my age here and throw out a term that some of you may be familiar with. It's called a TV cartoon called The Jetsons, and a lot of the facts that Mike presented reminded me of the show The Jetsons, where everything was automated, including the tasks that they didn't want to do themselves, such as cooking, cleaning, and other chores. So I welcome that in my world, but it is interesting, as we used to laugh at that as such an odd thing at that day and age, and we never thought we'd see that in our lifetime, and here it is. And a great segue into the training. Next slide, please, Amber. So as Mike mentioned, Keith developed the training, and we heavily leveraged our network as well as our internal payments industry knowledge with over 60 years of payment experience. The folks on my team have a combination of experience across a variety of people in the supply chain, which was very helpful in adding the flavor and the content and the amount of detail that we provided in the training sessions. We've held positions at both executive and operational levels and ATM networks, at independent ATM operators, processors, and financial institutions. Next slide, please, Amber. So we focused on best practices, and so as you're going through the training, you may think my organization currently doesn't do that, but it's a great opportunity to think about perhaps how to do things differently. And we, as mentioned, leveraged and shared our knowledge in working with our network, which included some of the best practices that we've seen in policies and procedures from ATM operators, ATM servicers, even to the manufacturers. We've reached out to all of them as we prepared this, and a variety of financial institutions that we would consider to be top of the line or best practice players. Detailed manuals were shared from the ATM manufacturers and servicers, which were very insightful and helpful as we developed specific screenshots and provide you with really detailed tutorials on how to manage or service an ATM. And we obviously have to throw in the rules, right, and make sure that what we've identified in terms of best practices apply and comply with the rules in the industry, both government as well as the card brands or ATM network operating rules. And then firsthand knowledge of experience of running an ATM network and consulting with ATM industry participants was useful in pulling together the information. Next slide. So what were the goals? The goals were to provide industry-specific training. So we found that there was just a lot of general information out there, but nothing that was really hands-on, detailed guidance for your team as ATM operators to be able to operate at the variety of levels of which we're going to talk about how we broke down the training. So job-specific training, it's online and it's on-demand availability. As Mike mentioned, why not automate, as everything else in the world is becoming automated, to save man hours, and that can come in a variety of ways. And it's difficult because you may have a small shop or a large shop, but your people have day-to-day responsibilities, so it's very difficult to take them out of that responsibility for 8 hours or even 2 days to have this comprehensive training. Well, the training that we provided is going to be very compact and available on demand so that they can view it in small bits over a period of time. Comprehensive how-to instructions needs to be included so that it was easy to navigate. breaking it down by modular logical training segments, and then, of course, that it leads to a certification. Next slide, please. So the breakdown is as follows. We broke it down into what we call role categories or job-specific, identified, and there are 5 categories. It's got 15 modules, broke it down by the kind of logical titles so that you can easily navigate and identify where you want to capitalize upon the training. And then within those, 164 detailed sessions, and each session is only 10 minutes long. So a lot of content. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours to save you the time of developing your own training program. Next slide. So as we talked about the roles, there are 5 roles that we focused on, and perhaps the titles may be different in your organization, but the concepts by which they apply are going to be grouped into these 5 particular segments. And when you look at the training online, under each of these titles, you'll see, I know, 5 or 6, maybe 7 different titles that may be more applicable to your organization, so you can figure out where it's associated based on the region or country that you're in and based upon how you title within your own organization. So ATM Operators Manager has 43 modules, 43 sessions, I'm sorry. ATM Field Controller 35, CSR 28, an ATM Balancing Clerk 26, and an ATM Custodian 32. So as you can see, the ATM Operators Manager has the biggest piece because they're viewing just about everything that their staff might be viewing as well. Next slide, please. Here are the modules summarized for you and then detailed in parentheses are the number of sessions associated with each of those training modules. So a lot of thought and energy went into categorizing these and grouping them such that you can easily figure out what role each of your staff is playing and what module might be applicable to them. So we have cash management, compliance, customer service, employee training and supervision, financial, which really goes down to a lot of detail, very specific examples, as well as balancing and a variety of other things that are, as we know, very important for anti-money laundering and just making sure you've got good cash flow and good cash management. So it ties in well with cash management. Human resources, how do you manage the employees or what do they need to do? Implementation and maintenance, business process management, negotiating skills, planning skills, problem management, procedural knowledge, product knowledge, reporting, and systems and software. So as you can see, very comprehensive, split into very logical components that you can easily navigate to figure out which modules to assign or for your staff to choose. Next slide. So just to give you a sample by each of the areas for problem management, I thought it would be good to show some of the titles of the sessions associated with problem management. And again, each one I think is a very logical title, so you can pick it and choose which one works best for your particular role. This one had quite a few in it that I thought would be a good one for everybody to view. So within this, we've got process reporting of ATM problems, resolving procedural issues, how to analyze and determine root causes associated with service delivery issues so you can improve your processes, understanding error codes, investigating route optimization for cost and return, perhaps looking at KPIs that you have associated with your agreements and making sure that your turnaround time is within the agreement, and diagnosing malfunctioning ATMs, which we know is an important part of every day, and then how to manage the escalations and how to resolve them and how to respond to them. Next slide, please. So here's a screenshot to show you what you may see as just one example. These screens are very interactive. Most of the buttons, when you either hover over them or click on them, will take you to a more detailed screen or a little pop-up screen, so it can give you a little bit more detailed information or ask you some questions to make you think through the situation. So again, very interactive in giving these best practice suggestions and answers to common questions that you and or your staff may experience. And as you can see on the bottom of that screenshot, you can see their back and next buttons. Again, important as we were going through and developing this, that you may get stuck, called away on a quick call, or your boss calls you away, or something else comes up, or you perhaps didn't get through the 10 minutes, so you've got to stop. You can always go back and forth and say, maybe I wanted to re-review the concept it just said. So you can flip back to the previous 2 or 3, 4 screens and start over, or you can skip on to the next screen. And at the end of each module, maybe flip to the next screen, Amber. And in each module, there's a Q&A session at the very end, just to make sure that people aren't skipping over everything. There's something in there to grab almost from a combination of concepts in the screen so that you can test your knowledge on what you've retained. And again, just another example of some of the detailed content. This one is a root cause of a problem, explaining the problem and then what corrective action options may be taken. Again, pulling from that best practice as your staff walks away to give them a sense of, now I feel like I can go out and accomplish this. I feel like I can do this without sitting in an 8-hour training, something condensed and easy to follow. Next slide, please. So this is an ATM field controller screenshot, analyzing and determining the root cause of service delivery issues. So again, an interactive screen where you hover over perhaps blue dots, or there may be a screenshot of the ATM terminal where you can hover over that and it does additional pop-up screens. So again, giving you reasons why it's important that this is paid attention to and addressed so that your staff can both appreciate and understand. Next slide, please. So summarizing the training modules and both the importance and benefit to your organization, we wanted to make it easy. Easy to navigate, simple to sign up. Quick, 10-minute sessions, you can complete it on your own timeline. Interactive, as much interactive screen as possible to both keep your attention and to make it feel like you're actually operating an ATM throughout some of the sessions. Questions and answers at the end to test the knowledge. And practical. We really tried to give very practical examples to illustrate key points, and then best practices that were cost-effective or manageable so that the items identified could be easily implemented. And then I think the next page, Amber, we're finished. So I'm going to pass it back over to you, and I think we're going to just address questions at the very end.
Thank you, Susan. Susan very nicely covered the content provided in the ATM operators training. I will provide you an overview of the training and how it is set up on our website. And the overview Susan very nicely went over too, so I'll kind of quickly go through this screen here. The ATM industry, it's the first standardized operations training for ATM operators, which we're very proud of. As Susan mentioned, it's based on international industry best practices. Again, we have 5 courses with over 100 sessions. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online, and you complete the training at your pace when it fits your schedule. So who should take this training? In a nutshell, if you are an ATM operator or work with ATM operators, this training is for you. This means financial institutions, if you have an ATM department or have staff who service the ATM. Independent employers, not only new staff, but staff with years of experience. And anyone who works with ATM operators so you know what their position entails and accurately understand their needs. This would include customer service, legal representatives, security, payment processors, and many others. ATMIA has made it very easy to purchase, assign, and access the training for yourself and your staff. You can see a screenshot that highlights a portion of the member's account once you are logged on to the website. I will highlight the information that is available under each of these bullet points. Once you are logged on, along with many other member benefits, you can also access the training on the website. You will find the login in your upper right-hand corner of the website, and then once you're logged on, you would click Your Account, which would open your account and the membership information. Included in your account are the following items: course session registrations remaining. The first two bullet points in the screenshot will provide you with a snapshot of how many remaining registrations you have left to assign to yourself or staff after purchasing them. Once you have the training assigned, this number will go down to 0. Purchase registrations. This is where you would click to purchase the training. You can purchase as little as one course or the entire ATM operators training. We have the option for you to choose multiples if you are purchasing the training for several staff members. The secure page includes credit card payment with an email receipt sent to you upon completion of the purchase. If you should need to purchase the training with a check or wire transfer, you would contact myself to complete the order. As with all online purchases made on the ATMIA website, the purchase of the training is secured. Register user. Once the training is purchased, this is where you would go to assign the training to yourself or your staff members. I will go into this in more detail on the next slide. View all company registrations. After you have assigned the training for your staff members, you will be able to monitor their progress on the sessions and courses. In this area, you will see everything that has been assigned to them, and for the sessions that have not been completed, you would see a red X by the name of that session. For those that have been completed, you would see a green check mark by the name of that session. This feature allows you to see their progress on the training at a click of a button. View training. This link takes you directly to the ATMIA Academy webpage for easy access. And then finally, My Sessions. If you have assigned training to yourself, this section provides you with insight into the progress of your training. I will go over this in greater detail later in the presentation. We will now go over how easy it is to assign the training to yourself and staff members after it has been purchased. You will of course need to be logged into the ATMIA website and in My Account in order to access the information. You will then click on the Register User bullet point under the Training section of the account. And you will see here, across from the member, you will see my name in a drop-down box. This would list all the members of your teams that are in our database. You will click the drop-down box to choose the staff member you will be assigning the training to. Note here that before the training is assigned, we do need to make sure that we have the staff member in our database. Setting them up is a simple process, and you can contact me to do so. In this instance, you will see under my name it shows the courses that have been assigned to me. Our system will also notify you if you do try to register a course to a staff member who has already had it assigned in order to avoid duplication. Next to registration type, you would choose if you are assigning a course or a session. You will see we have the credits available of how many you have purchased next to each for easy tracking. Next to course, you will see another drop-down box. You would click on this box and select the course you want to assign to yourself or staff member. If you had selected an individual session by registration type, this option would change to the sessions with the sessions listed in the drop-down box. Once you have these steps completed, you would choose the Register button at the bottom of the page to complete the assignment of the training, course, or session. An email will be sent to the person the training is assigned to, notifying them of this, and it includes a link to the training course. They will be prompted to log in before they will be able to start taking the sessions. And then you would repeat this process until all the available credits are assigned to yourself or staff members. You will, of course, want to track your own progress and the staff you assign the training to. Both are set up very similarly on our website. I will go over how to track your own training here. As with previous steps, you need to be logged into the website to access your account, and then under the training area of your account, you would select View My Sessions. This is a screenshot of what the information displayed on the page will be. You will see your sessions divided by topic. It includes the average time the session should take, how many attempts you have taken at the session, and if you have successfully completed the session or not. As before, a red X would indicate the session is not completed, and a green check mark indicates you have completed the session. When tracking your progress, you will also find on this page, but not shown in the screenshot, a progress bar that shows the percentage of the training you have completed. You can view the sessions you need to complete per course on this page as well. There would be a drop-down box at the top of the page, and you can select the course for which you want to view the sessions for. The progress bar at the top of the page would then change for each course so you can see how much you have completed in the course. You can click on each session for further information that includes the total time spent on the sessions for previous attempts, the date you started the session, and the last time it was accessed. You can start taking the sessions on this page as well. And as Susan had mentioned, as you're fitting the training into your busy work schedule, we know that you may be called away during a session. If this should happen, when you start the session again, you will be asked if you want to start the session over from the beginning or if you would like to continue the session where you left off. This helps to keep the training as user-friendly and efficient as possible for those taking it. Oops. Went too far there. All right. Once you have completed the sessions within the course, you will be emailed a certificate of completion for the course. After you have completed all 5 courses, you will be emailed the International Certificate for ATM Operators along with the icon you see here. You can use this icon to inform your customers and competitors that you have successfully completed the training and are certified by the only international association for the ATM industry. You can market this achievement by including the icon on your email, business cards, promotional items, and more. ATMIA also wants to help recognize this achievement you have done. Your name will be displayed in our Industry Hall of Honors, which is available for anyone to see, and also within our ATMIA member directory. In the directory, the icon will be displayed by your listing to help distinguish you among your peers. By completing the ATM Operators training and receiving the International Certificate for ATM Operators, you are raising your level of professionalism within the industry and showcasing your knowledge to your customers, which in turn will strengthen their trust in your company. ATMIA is happy to announce that we will keep in place the special pricing that we currently ran in July. This means additional savings to you. The cost, as you see here, for one course is $750, and the entire ATM Operators training, or all 5 courses and over 100 sessions, is $3,000. If you're looking to train your entire staff, we do have additional discounts available, and you can contact me for this pricing. Just to recap the training, the ATM Operators training is easy to use and to set up for your staff. You can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it fits in your schedule. There is not a time limit to complete the sessions or courses, and the training covers the scope of what an ATM operator will need to know for their day-to-day operations based on international best practices. I do encourage you to consider this for yourself and your team. I do want to mention that we do require those who take the ATM Operators training to be members of ATMIA to ensure the company is in good standing and using the information for its intended purposes. Membership alone with ATMIA provides many benefits to you and your company, and our core areas of benefit include education, which covers the international best practices, free attendance to webinars on current items for the industry, discounted rates to our conferences, access to our industry papers, and more. Networking. This is very invaluable for several of our members. This includes networking at our conferences that are held globally, access to our member directory that lists just under 5,000 members globally, and a seat on our active working committees so you can have a say and stay on top of items being worked on. And as an association, we are also provide advocacy. This includes monitoring updates for your region, keeping you informed, and compliance issues in corporate governance. This is just a list of a few of the benefits that we provide. I do encourage you to contact the Executive Director for your region if you're not a member, or Sharon Lane, our Global Director of Finance and Member Services, for more information. Sharon's contact information will be displayed on the last slide as well. I would now like to hand it over to Amy Colson with Pueblo Bank and Trust, and who was the first person to earn the International Certificate for Professional ATM Operators, which we're very proud of. Over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Amber. So our line of business within the bank is sponsorship of ISOs into the debit networks. These ISOs include those that are focused on the ATM industry. As such, it is imperative that we continue to understand their business as fully as possible in order to best serve their needs and represent them appropriately. This training provided an excellent overview of many of the areas associated within the ATM industry. ATMIA provided a concise and easily accessible tutorial for this training. The program would be an excellent refresher course for those already in the industry or for those entering the business for the first time. This course should be strongly considered as part of everyone's initial training. Pueblo Bank and Trust is very pleased to validate our industry knowledge with this endorsement, and personally I am grateful for the opportunity. This training gave me a fresh perspective of the ATM industry and a better understanding of many of the functions required. Also, Pueblo Bank and Trust appreciates its membership with ATMIA. This training is just one of the many benefits afforded to us through membership. Our membership allows us to constantly be aware of changes within the industry and to assist in effectively making changes when needed. There is strength in numbers which allows for a much louder voice that is often necessary to effect change. So thank you again, ATMIA, for this opportunity. And I will send it back to Mike.
Thank you very much, Amy, and of course to Susan and Amber for their enthusiastic and illuminating presentations. We hope you will all consider how you can integrate automated training for ATM operations into your business. We think this is the way to go for greater efficiency. And I'd just like to thank Susan and her team of experts for providing superb content for the curriculum, and the format we found is very user-friendly and easy to navigate from one session to another. So when you've got a combination of excellent content and easy format to use, you've got a winner. Well, we now come to the final section of the webinar, which is Q&A, and I do have some questions here, and I'd like to kick off asking Amber a question as the training manager. Amber, is the training content that we've been talking about accessible after the training sessions have been completed?
Yeah, good question, Mike. Yes, the training sessions, once you have purchased them, they are stored in your account, which we went over during the webinar, and you can go back and access them at any time. So it doesn't mean that once you've successfully completed the session, you cannot access that content anymore. You will be able to go through the content whenever you should need it.
Okay, that's great. So it does take a lot of time pressure off the students, Amber?
Yes, definitely. Again, one of the benefits, it's they can do it at their time and at their pace and revisit as needed afterwards.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out that at the end of each 10-minute session, you have a test, but it's an open book test, so the student or trainee can also go back to the content that he's just covered if he or she is unsure how to answer the question, because we need 100% for each session. So again, you can navigate back and look. So it's like an open book test in terms of evaluation. So Amber, for those who've never been to our ATMIA Academy, is there a sample session people can take for free to get a taste of the course?
Yeah, there is. If you visit our website, we do have a free preview session which is open to everyone to take. It's called The Knowledge of a Basic ATM Workflow. And we did choose that session because if you have been in the industry for a while, this would be good information that you can base off in the session to verify that it is correct. And when you would do it, you would just click on the thing. You'd have a screen that pops up. You'd enter in your information. And the only thing I should note is just make sure that you have your pop-up blocker turned off, since the the test session does pop up at you.
Okay, and then in terms of each course, we've seen the 5 job roles, which we analyzed as making up the full spectrum of ATM operations for both banks and independent employers. Is there a convenient list? And I know Susan touched on the content and how it's divided up into those job roles. Is there a accessible list of the sessions that make up each of those courses available, Amber?
Yes, good question. Yes, absolutely. Again, on our training website, which we'll make sure to include in our thank you email, if you go to that and at the bottom of the page, we have the 5 courses broken out, and then within that, you can click on to see the title of each sessions, or all the sessions for each of the courses to give you a better understanding. And if you would need to get a little bit more information besides that, you can always contact me and I'd be happy to help.
Okay, that's great. And then folks on the call should just bear in mind that some of the sessions overlap between the different jobs. And as Susan intimated, each deployer might plan their ATM operations slightly differently, using different terminology and having different individuals doing different aspects of all those processes. So we do have some overlapping sessions that all of the job roles need that kind of knowledge to do their job properly, and as you pointed out, Amber, to do it professionally. And of course, from the ATMIA perspective, we believe this kind of training, which is standardized throughout the world, means that we believe the ATM is an important customer touch point. That's the coal face, as it were, where our industry meets the general public and the card holders, and that's where the operations have to succeed so well that our industry continues to enjoy a great reputation. So I think one of the net benefits for the industry of professional training, which is standardized throughout the world, is that we have that benchmark of professionalism, and that in turn just makes our technology even more appreciated by the general public. So Amber, just moving on to another question I have for you, is that, okay, we've launched the ATM Academy, and this ATM operators training is available. Do you have plans for further types of training in the years to come?
Yes, as this training has, like we said, it's the first of its kind, and we do plan on expanding on that as the need arises. So if you, as being on the webinar, if you can think of anything that you would like to see training on, please let us know. We'll be taking that into consideration, and then we'll be planning on future training from here on out. And Mike, you may have more to add to that.
Yeah, I think I know for a fact that because since 2003 we've developed a lot of security best practices, we would like to develop an ATM security training course. So that will be on the cards. And of course, as you say, listening to the requests that we get from our members for courses, the whole idea, as I said right in the beginning, is to automate training. And therefore, you all know the kind of training that you're already presenting. So please let us know if you think it's a good idea for us to do that as an industry body. And of course, there are generic training courses that are very useful in business. Everything from the normal type of HR and management type courses, more generic material. But we wanted to start with very job-specific training, that's where we started. Susan, would you like to add anything at this stage to what Amber has said to the question so far? Susan. You're welcome to come in, and if you unmute.
It's always helpful to try.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for Susan, just like to take Jeremy's question, and this concerns language. Obviously the course is in English, and we have chapters in Asia and Latin America, Europe, Africa, so there's many different languages that our members do speak. And Jeremy asks, would we entertain offering other language support such as Spanish? Amber, any thoughts from your side at this stage? I'll add to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as we look at furthering the training, we want to make sure it is reaching all our members as much as possible. So as this continues to grow, I think that would be a very real possibility.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Jeremy, is that we've started to produce translations of our best practices in Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, simplified Chinese, and that is definitely something that we will be looking into. So the answer to your question, Jeremy, is a definite yes. I've got another question here for Amber and Susan, and that is, would you say that the training that we're offering so far is regional in scope, or is it more global, or a bit of both?
I would say it's a
Amber,
bit
have
of
you got
both.
any thoughts on that? Oh, right.
Yeah, I would say it's a bit of both. It's so hard because of all of the rules that are so regionally centric to really keep in a 10-minute session and concentrate on all of those rules. It would just make the sessions too lengthy and long and more attorney-like than operator-like. So we really try to identify globally with the ATM manufacturers and certainly the servicers that we talk with, which are globally based, and pull in as many of those concepts as possible. Clearly we've got strength of knowledge in the United States, so we capitalized upon that, but it was intended to be globally based.
Right, and then Susan, a lot of the source material came from around the world that we originally mapped out the 5 job roles. That was global in scope, and of course we can always suggest to the companies that sign up to add regional specific material that they might want to do on top of this global knowledge about ATM operations.
Right.
And Susan, while you're on the line, we've got a question which I think you'd be able to answer best from Laura Smith, which has just come through. Which courses would you recommend for ESO administrators or managers? ESO administrators or managers. Do you want to tackle that offline, or do you have a few thoughts on that?
Yeah, Laura, great question. She's one of my clients, so good question. For the ESO managers, I recommend the ATM operator manager session. I think that would be most applicable, and there are even some down to like the field controller levels that I would recommend taking, because there's a lot of concentration on ESOs and their variety of activity. But depending on how you're defining an ESO and the extent by which that ESO is performing activities, there may be a variety of other sessions that may be best added to that. But I would certainly go with the ATM operations manager role sessions.
Okay, great answer, Susan.
Yeah.
And any final comments from? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so just 2 comments. I have a lot of clients as I'm going out and doing my field audit, particularly on the ATM operator side, where you see this energy in the staff level where maybe the energy doesn't exist at the manager level because they're so busy. So we really encourage those that are staff on the phone. This is a great way for you to take training and learn skills and tools that will help you be promoted to that next level if that's what you're ready to do. So it's really a great way for succession planning and advancing your career to the extent possible, but then also just to help your managers who may not have the time to think about best practices. You're going to see some best practices in here. Present those opportunities to your manager to help them improve in your organization, improve overall. Because we really focused a lot on what tools can we give you to help your organization be better, stronger, more cost-effective, and or to protect your liability and your risk.
Absolutely. Great insights, Susan. Thank you for sharing that. And also to Amy and Amber, if you have any final comments before we come to a wrap, you're most welcome.
I think Susan said it wonderfully. She summed that up very well. Just to reiterate that, we're here to answer any questions that you may have on the training offline, and I do encourage you to take that free session to get a sample of it, and we'd be happy to talk.
Thank you very much, Amber. And Amy, anything from you?
I just want to thank you guys again for the opportunity.
No, thank you very much for being part of this and for your testimonial. And just to reassure everyone on the call that we are open to your suggestions for developing training courses. The ATMIA Academy is going to expand drastically over the next couple of years, and we'd be very keen to get your ideas because this is an industry tool to help us as an industry become more professional, which in turn reinforces the trust and reputation to the customers. So I would like to thank you all for joining us for this webinar, and please feel free to contact myself, Mike at atmia.com, or on the screen there, Amber and Sharon. Would love to hear from you. Thanks once again to Susan, Amber, and Amy for their presentations, and most of all to you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.